Oh, hey, nice. So, hit me. What do you want to know?
I'm ready. Well, we can start off nice and easy, Mr. Michael.
Okay,
You
sure.
can
Sounds good. Sounds good.
tell me a little bit about yourself and sort of your background as a chess player. How have you ended up where you are now?
Oh, and you say about starting out easy? God.
Yeah. Oh no.
No, I mean, my memory is bad. Like, we gotta go way back. I mean, basically, I think for me, I've always enjoyed these kind of strategy games, especially from like quite a young age. So even when I was like 5, there was like this Chinese game called Animal Chess, which I ended up getting quite good at. And then I kind of got this like I realized that I was quite into these strategy games because it's um I think I'm quite competitive as a person, and these games really you know uh, make uh, that competitive nature come out. So yeah, I mean, I've been playing for a long time, like since around the age of 10, and it kind of started off like in primary school. Then I started playing in a local chess club, like an adult club, and
Yeah.
then once I got a bit better, I represented the county, played in some county junior matches and uh, intra county matches. And then I made a big push around the age of like 14. Like I made this decision to try hard at chess because I was also pretty good at badminton at the time. So I like made that decision.
Oh yeah.
Try hard at chess, made it into the England team, represented England for a few international matches, and then yeah, went to uni, had a bit of a break, but then got stuck right back into it. And then after that, I never really left, really. I mean, like, I had a short phase where I was very annoyed with my chess and therefore took a short break. But no, on the whole, like, yeah, I've just been getting more and more invested in chess, not only as a player, but like as a content creator, as a coach, as an organizer, just everything I could dabble
Nice.
in with chess, I went in that direction.
Well, I didn't realize. Yeah, you really went through the entire sort of like junior chess pipeline.
Oh yeah,
Which
absolutely.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. If you can remember anything, sort of what particularly were your experiences like? If you remember anything from your primary school chess days, or how the
Aha,
sort of transition was when you were each time,
sure.
going up the ladder.
Yeah, so I mean, with primary school chess, I mean, the primary school, I don't know how they got the funding or who had the idea, but they had some chess sets.
Mm.
And I believe they were actually quite nice, these normal plastic chess sets.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone must have thought of the idea. And the kid who was running it was actually a kid in year 6. So at the time, I was probably in like year 2 or 3 or 4 or something.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, basically, he realized that I was really getting into the game, and at the time, this year 6 kid, he was playing at an adult chess club. So he just one day was like, Michael, you're enjoying this game, you're playing pretty well. How about you come along to this club? And I went along, and basically at this club called Woodnesborough Chess Club. It was just a small village, kind of close to where I lived,
Mm.
and yeah, the guy who ran it is like a 1700, 1800 player, and very strategical in nature. So he basically taught me a lot of chess strategy. And it's kind of funny because when you go through uh, maybe this kind of unique path, like not, I mean, nowadays there's so many resources where you can learn chess from, but
Mm.
back then there was literally this one chess website for kids, and it was called something like, oh, I can't even remember anymore. It was like uh, chess for kids or something like this, and it was
I
basically
remember something similar too. Yeah.
yeah. It was like the animations were like really early 2000s, and it had some basic principles there. But basically, it wasn't standardized, like lessons for kids. And what ended up happening was I learned a very skewed understanding of chess. I feel like so my
Mm.
tactical development was never there, and the only games I ever learned how to play was basically play on the queen side, grind out a small advantage, and win in the end game. And I never, ever, ever in any of my games as a junior attacked the king for a really long time. So
Weird.
yeah, yeah. And then one day, I remember, I think, so at that time I was getting better. I was playing the French defense. Um, Also at the time, I had one chess book at home. I don't know where it came from. I think probably just a friend gave it to my family because they knew that I was into chess, I guess. And it happened to be a book on the modern Benoni, which is a chess
Oh
opening I'm still playing today. So yeah, just a lot of luck, I guess, and random coincidence. Um, but yeah, no, the club was really really good, and the teacher, I mean, okay, even though it was a bit skewed, no, he was absolutely great and taught me a lot of fundamentals. Um,
no.
and yeah, just basically from there, I think I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to play more. And I was living in the county of Kent, and at the time, Kent had this association, Kent Junior Chess Association, that would organize Grand Prix throughout the year. So there was
Oh,
Grand Prix 1 to 8, and every Grand Prix, you would achieve a score, and at the end of the season, they'd take, like, I don't know, your 4 or 5 best scores across the year, and then there would be some overall rank. And it was a lot of fun playing in that for a few years because you'd kind of develop rivalries with different players, and that would motivate you to, like, actually study a bit more so you can get one up on your rival, move up the
yeah.
ranks each year. So I never won it. I think the highest I ever got was third, but yeah, that was a lot of good motivation for me as well.
That's nice. Yeah. Do we have something similar now? Because I don't really hear about stuff like that so much.
I think there is, and I think KJCA are still doing it, but I don't think it's as popular as it once was. I think maybe when I was playing, there was a lot of keen organizers, and I think a lot of juniors who had, like, very keen parents who were also helping
Mm.
with organizing. Like, I think I was just there at the right time where it was, like, really, yeah, popping off. I mean, I think back then as well, there weren't as many opportunities, so that meant everyone just was there and playing in it. Whereas
Yeah.
nowadays, you can find tournaments all over the place. There's online chess, lots of alternative options for players.
Yeah. And did you get a chance to play in the primary school championship at Pontins
At
at all?
Pontins, no, I never knew they had
Yeah.
a chess thing there. That's
It's a
cool.
legendary weekend benders for the year threes.
No, I have not heard of this. Well, where were you
Oh,
playing? Were you playing, like, on like some sand? Or is that Butlins that has the sand? I can't remember.
that was sort of like sand and beach. Yeah, Pontins,
Yeah.
Butlin, same thing, just like a weekend resort or
Uh-huh.
whatever. And it was a
Right.
big national
Ah.
schools team event. So I first played that when I was like 6, and I basically just learned how the pieces move. And their board
Right.
6 was sick or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, all right, sure. I lost all 7 games, but
Right,
loved
right.
it.
Good start, good start. Yeah, no, hadn't heard of that one.
Dang, yeah, okay. Because okay, so that's how you got into local club chess, and then it sounds quite natural how as you got better and better, you got chosen to represent the county and then even England.
Right, right, yeah. Like, you kind of, like, the further up you go, especially as a junior, the more contacts you meet. I guess my mum was
Mm,
doing most of this, but, like, you meet people who then know someone who's organizing something or in some team, and then you just slowly work your
yeah,
way up. But I mean, back then, I really liked the system for the England team, and it's not the same system now, which I could get
right.
into at a later point. But back then, you had the system with norms, and they called it half norms. So basically, to get into the England team, you need to have 2 tournaments where you score at least a half, either one tournament with a full norm or 2 tournaments with a half norm. But there were only, like, 5 or 6 tournaments across the year that would count to get these norms and represent England. And basically, the difficult part with these tournaments were that some were invitational, and some, well, all of them, most of the players were England team members already. And to
Oh,
score a
that's very
half point
insular.
norm, yeah, but I mean, anyone could enter if you felt like you were good enough. But the thing is, to score a half point norm, you had to score over 50% in either
Yeah,
a 5 round or 6 round tournament. And to score 3 out of 5 or 3.5 out of 6 against existing England squad members, very tough. You basically got to be better than the England team to get onto the England team.
yeah.
So very, very tough ordeal, but that was just some great source of motivation for me to,
Mm.
like, have something to strive for. And yeah, it worked out in the end.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember. I think I only played from ages sort of 6 to 8 before I moved and I fell out of chess. But I think I had a really high provisional grade
Uh-huh.
after one of my first tournaments, and I remember apparently the Kent Chess Association went up to my mum super enthusiastically, and they're like, "Oh, this Eric kid, he's so strong. You should play for the county." And it's like, because it wasn't like a no an F rating or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
literally completely provisional, and then obviously I wasn't actually that good, but
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
like 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. I didn't realize you grew up in Kent as well, actually. Whereabouts?
I know I didn't even live in that county. I think it was
Oh, okay.
I must have been playing at some sort of like regional mega final where people from Kent were playing.
I see, yeah.
Because what my county was Middlesex, which doesn't even
Right.
exist anymore, but it sort of does,
Right.
the Middlesex League and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Um, Gosh, I don't even know who would have played for Middlesex at my age.
Yeah. I do remember Middlesex was a team, I think, when I was playing in these county tournaments. So I think
It's,
back then
it's
it was, or maybe still now. Yeah.
It still is now because we've got the Middlesex League, and I think I know what you're talking about. I recently got like contacted about the inter
Right. Yes.
matches and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Middlesex is still definitely a team for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So then, well, I suppose that's sort of your junior chess experience. Did that have any sort of like personal impact on your life? I guess beyond the fact that now you're a chess coach now.
Right. No, I definitely think it did. And one point that I really think is good with chess is that, especially when you play at an adult club as a junior, you kind of gain the confidence to speak to adults as equals, because in chess, everyone is ultimately an equal or it more depends on the strength of the player. So you could have an 8-year-old who is stronger than a 60-year-old, and the age doesn't have any kind of factor into, like, I don't know, how you address one another. It's really just about what's going on the board. So I felt as a kid, I don't think I had much experience with talking to adults. But then after playing at the club and, basically experiencing every kind of adult you could imagine in our interactions, I think I gained a lot of confidence talking to adults, and I know that, like, it's not like necessarily like something that people just have naturally, because I had a friend in school who I remember having this thought that he's a very sociable guy, really talkative among people of his age. And then I remember we went to this science conference together, and there was like a lecturer who was like giving a lecture in something he was like doing some research in. And I was like, yo, you gotta ask him like some questions about it. And he went up to ask at the end, and he was just like looking down at his toes, and he was just like mumbling all of his words, and I just couldn't believe what was happening, because like he's
Oh, this poor kid.
yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, with his peers, like, he's the most confident, talkative guy. So I think, like, yeah, that's one thing with chess that I really appreciate as a junior, that it just taught me how to talk to adults. And yeah.
That's a very interesting one. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before, because I've sort of you can understand chess as a sort of great equalizer where as an adult you can play any other adult from another walk of life, but the idea that a kid can have the confidence to speak to adults where they kind of, I suppose there's not many settings where you normally would, because
Right.
so as kids are dealing with their parents or their teachers, and then
Exactly.
that relationship is very different.
Yeah.
Very interesting opportunity. Yeah. And then, okay, I suppose we could get into the chess lifestyle, the chess coaching now. The
Aha.
what the fans have been waiting for.
Right.
I'd love to. What was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I seriously love to hear a bit about how you feel about the lifestyle of making a living as a chess coach, and what sort of opportunities chess has brought you in that respect.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with chess coaching, I actually got very lucky again with it, I think, because I kind of made... I remember, actually, I was in second year of university studying a course in molecular biology, and at the time I was like quite into science and research. But I remember I was sitting in the kitchen of my flat in second year, and I remember like one of my flatmates was in the kitchen as well, and she was just watching me like doing some maths on the table, calculating the numbers, and she was just asking me like, what are you doing? And I was just basically working out that I can make a better living of coaching chess than I can from being like a research scientist. And in terms of like the amount of effort I would have to put in for that, and also the enjoyment I
Yeah.
would get, and the hours that I need to spend, like it just seemed like such a no-brainer. So it was kind of second year of uni where I realized like, oh, this can actually work. But I think I got particularly lucky because although I started doing a bit more coaching in uni, it was only when I graduated where I really tried take this leap of faith and go, you could say full time with it. I mean, ultimately, you're never gonna have like a full time job in terms of like 40 hours of chess teaching because
No.
it's not realistic. But you can earn as much as a full time job with like half the hours. So I took that leap, and it was lucky because at the time where I was trying that, the Queen's Gambit Netflix series just came out,
Ah.
as well as the pandemic had just hit. And with these two things in mind, during the pandemic, a lot of people had nothing to do, so they, pick out a chessboard, including families with kids who are bored with nothing to do. And then a lot of kids were actually like wanting to get into chess, and then contacting Maria, my boss at Chess Rising Stars. So I was associated with an academy, and then also then her contacting me to teach these students. And the great thing with that as well was that once I got like a few new students, they would also have friends who would want chess lessons.
Snowball effect. Yeah.
Exactly. And then they would, rather than contact my academy, they'd just contact me directly to say like, oh, do you have any more availabilities? And then I could get even more students that way. And in these instances, I don't even pay a commission on these students. So, I mean, basically I was getting a lot of interest, and, since the students liked my lessons, the parents, liked how I was organizing the lessons and how, they could see the improvement in the kids' play. They were very happy to recommend me, and it kind of, if you're good at your job, then you're going to get recommended, and then it keeps growing from there. So I think the coaching has worked out quite nicely. I don't know if it's something that I will do forever, but it's definitely something that has been very nice right now because I've had a lot of like different chess projects and different ambitions that I've been able to fulfill to some extent, and I wouldn't have had that time had I had like a full-time 9 to 5 job. So I really appreciate it.
Definitely, that's quite a unique opportunity. You're right. The idea that sort of the potential is there to really make a great living, and you've got the so much more flexibility in terms of what you're doing with your time. Because you're right, I personally can't see myself doing what I want to do with chess, or what other projects I want to do whilst having being locked into sort of a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, right.
It's also interesting. I don't know. We live in a sort of gig economy, right, where a lot of our work is very, very, very precarious. But in some ways, I'm quite interested in sort of the social networking you're talking about. It's almost like what you're describing. It sounds like your work becomes more stable through your social networks, where you've got constant interest coming in, and you're sort of like gravitating work towards you rather than sort of like desperately running around like you normally would, going on Indeed, like doing one-off stints and stuff.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. I mean, like, at first glance, it sounds like such a job would not be the most safe job compared to like having a legit company that you're associated with and getting this like very stable income. But in a way, like, because you're kind of on your own in terms of like how you manage everything, you can kind of establish the stability with your work. And to be honest, I haven't faced any fears of like, let's say all of my chess students suddenly abandoning me or something like that. Like, it just doesn't happen. And even if there is a student who, let's say, I don't know, has got exams to prepare for, so they're stopping chess lessons, or maybe they've fallen out of interest with chess, for every one of those students, there'll be another student who is requesting new lessons. So I think right now, at least with chess, like, it's really in that sweet spot of like popular enough where there's like this kind of stable source of students, but perhaps not so popular that there's like, way too many coaches and you're struggling to find work. Like I think it's like a really optimal balance actually, and yeah, it's working out quite nicely.
That's true, because I suppose chess is sort of niche enough that, well, I think there are many, many people who could be sort of like qualified to do the sort of teaching we do
Yeah,
often, but it's just not really the case. I think once I was interested in doing sort of, like A-level or GCSE tutoring, and I think
exactly.
the website is like tutor.com or something.
Uh-huh.
Something like that. And, you look at it and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like competing with PhD candidates to like earn less than minimum wage.
Exactly,
teaching
exactly.
GCSE maths.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
a
was
good example
thinking
of like the massive
exactly of that.
oversaturation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm But I think the other great thing about being a coach in chess is that actually it's not accessible to all chess players, because there are a lot of chess players, through the nature of the game, it's a relatively introverted game compared to like other games or sports. And that means that it attracts a lot of introverted people, and, a lot of introverted people may not be so keen to, I don't know, make their living through teaching children. So it means that, yeah, if you've got some social skills, you've got some people skills, you can work with kids, you can be engaging, then, yeah, you've kind of got this access to a job that maybe not everyone can. And I remember actually recently, I was playing in the British and I was speaking to some, I can say friends. I mean, we're not like that close, but yeah, I'd say friends. And I remember there was a bit of an awkward moment where like I was charging, we discovered I was charging more than another player there who was, close to 2200, where I'm only 2000. Yeah, I was charging more. And the kind of general consensus at that moment was like, that's unfair or something. But the thing is, what I believe is that, like, to be a good chess teacher, it's not just about having the chess elo. There are a lot of other factors that come into whether you are actually going to be a good chess teacher. Like, are you able to deliver the content in a way that the kid is going to retain it? Are you going to be able to motivate them to stay in the game, love the game, and compete higher and higher levels? Have you got the expertise from like, FIDE trainer seminars and different international coaching experiences that will strengthen your skills as a coach? Like, all of these factors are very important to being a good teacher. And I think the more of these you kind of take on board, I believe the more you can charge and the better teacher you become. So yeah, I think it is something that you can kind of grow for yourself as a coach. And also, yeah, I don't think it's limited to something just as like, oh, if you're a GM, then you can charge the most. If you're not a GM, charge less. Like, I think it's more nuanced than that.
Definitely. Well, I mean, there's this sort of like, is it, in some ways, it's extremely rational, right? The idea of, oh, well, I want to get better at chess, I should talk to a GM.
Yeah.
But you're right that being sort of like sociable and having, the skill set of a teacher. I've heard, sometimes you go to a grandmaster and you pay like 100 quid, and they may just be an introverted person who doesn't really like know how to explain things.
Right. Right.
He's a grandmaster, but what can you learn from them?
Yeah.
I see quite a bit of parallels, I suppose. It's not quite as intense, I guess, as a school teacher. You're not trying to like constantly raise their level to some elite status, but the idea that you need to be patient and deliver content in an engaging way, like you said,
right,
is much more important than the idea that your teacher doesn't have to like have a PhD from Cambridge or whatever,
right,
to do what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you're teaching a kid, let's say they're 1500 rated. Whether you're 2000 teaching at 1500 or the 2200 teaching at 1500, the skills and lessons that they need to learn at their stage in their development, it doesn't matter like whether you're 2000
Definitely.
or 2200. I think as soon as the kid, let's say, gets to maybe a level of 2000, then what I've actually heard, there's a Indian grandmaster coach who I was speaking to once. And he was saying, and I really like what he was saying, he basically suggested that if you are a coach for a student and this student basically surpasses your strength or gets close to surpassing your strength, you need to be prepared to be the bigger person in that situation and step down as a coach, become their second, and ensure that you find a coach for them that will keep elevating their level. Because apparently, well, what he was saying was that there are a lot of talented juniors who kind of get stunted in their growth because their coach, who they've had since the start of their development, doesn't want to let go of them because they're like, oh, this is my prize jewel that I want to,
Yeah.
see to GM and then say, that was all me. But ultimately, if you're, let's say, like an FM trying to get a student to GM, you probably don't have as much expertise and knowledge as a GM
No.
would. So I think it's all just relative to the student. And yeah, that's luckily I'm not in the place where I feel like any of my students right now are at the point where they would probably need a different coach. Although maybe I have one kid who I am in touch with, who you could say I'm somewhat of his coach, but I'm already in that phase of like wanting to be more of a second, trying to find the right coach for him, because that's what he needs.
That must be quite difficult though, the idea that, yeah, the truth. I can imagine it being really difficult if I had a student get to my level. I wouldn't want to let them go.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I've got
Yeah.
such a great student. Couldn't possibly let them go.
Yeah, nah, it's
That's
tough.
a good point. Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose then, sort of segueing, we could move on to. I think are you involved in sort of like Leicester youth chess? That's what I've seen
Yeah, Leicestershire.
recently.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could tell me a little bit about your experiences coaching and helping them.
Right. So I doubt that this is like, some kind of national standard across counties. I probably think that each county will run things slightly differently. But what the situation is in Leicestershire is that we basically have one guy who is in charge of pretty much all the junior activities that happen in Leicestershire. Um, and he runs a club on Saturday uh, that has like multiple different levels where juniors can play at. But predominantly, this is kind of like for the ages of under 9 and under 12, because currently there is a county's kind of event that has an under 9 team and an under 12 team. So the club is kind of geared towards, improving the players, having these staple events to kind of work towards, like get into the team, represent the county, play in it. So I helped one under 9 finals, which was very fun. Like a lot of keen kids, a lot of talented kids,
Nice.
just there for the vibes. And yeah, it was very good fun. But yeah, my contribution to this Leicestershire chess community is, when I was speaking to the guy who's organizing stuff, we kind of came to this consensus that the kids who are older than under 12 don't really have, that thing to look forward to, and also the training to kind of get their level up, because some of them would be still going to the Saturday club, but they've kind of graduated it and it's not really appropriate for their strength. So what I've been doing, I've been running this online class, and I actually took this idea from the Kent Grand Prix that I was talking about earlier, about how it's across a year. So I've been doing these seasonal Grand Prix events where we'd have 5 weekends in a row where their points will count, like add up, and there'd be some overall kind of winner. And what I've been doing is not only having the tournaments, but we'd have like a 1 hour session beforehand, like coaching session, 1 hour to 1.5 hour, and then an hour tournament after. And it would just be £10 per student for the whole thing, the whole session.
Nice.
So I mean, for them, it's a great deal because this is like £10 for an hour and a half of coaching and this selective tournament, which is good to test their skills. But also good for me because I mean, if I'm getting like 6, 7, 8 students who come along, it's kind of a bit more worth my time. It's not like just I spend an hour for £10, it's maybe an hour for £80 or something. So I think it works out from a cost point of view. It works out for the students because they weren't having this this access to this higher level training. And yeah, I think some of them are gonna keep up with chess more, and I think it's good that they've got something to stay engaged with the game.
That sounds really important. The idea, because you talked before about how it was a big part of your motivation, these Kent Grand Prix, having developing rivalries and having stuff
Right,
to really
exactly.
train for. So I can imagine it must be a little bit weird if everyone's gearing up for these under 9 and under 12 events. So it sounds like you're really filling a vacuum there.
Right.
Is there not? Well, I guess what kind of opportunities um, do they have beyond perhaps like the county level? Is it just the England team, or is there any other opportunities
Well, the
for them,
annoying
or
thing,
what should there
yeah.
be?
Well, I think an England team would be great for them to aspire to, but the real issue right now, at least in my opinion, is that the England team is a selective process. It's not like a process where you can perform your way into the team like
Yeah.
what I had, where you have these two half norms. It's all outlined very nice and clear, and that gets you into the team. Nowadays, there's like England junior development pathway, and you can be
Okay.
on different stages of this pathway. And if you are, and the England team is based off of players who are selected by this committee, who are selecting players either who they think are strong enough or players who are in, I don't know, the top ECF club, which is
Mm.
basically this online group where you have to pay hundreds of pounds to be a
Ooh.
part of. And when you see the players who have been selected, like for some of like the world events, I appreciate they are picking like the highest rated, strongest juniors.
Yeah.
But for some other events, it really doesn't feel like they're picking like the most promising players. Like you've got like children of committee members of grandmasters. Like
Oh
it
no.
doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And yeah, I think that there should be some kind of I don't mind it being so selective if it were like some kind of
Mm.
team for not like a national team, but let's say if it was like I don't know like London team or Leicestershire team, like then you have
Yeah.
a bit more flexibility as to how to pick the players, or if it was like an ECF academy team or something like this. But when you say it is the England team, the national
Mm.
team, I think players juniors from England should have more access to such a team and have it'll be more of an incentive for them to work hard to get onto the team. Um, but yeah, that's
Would
that's my
you sort of
concern.
like, yeah? Would you want sort of like more qualifying events? Because I know for
Hmm.
stuff like the the British Championships or the British Blitz Championships and stuff, it's there. It sounds like there's a similar process where okay, it's not about representing the team, but to qualify into these events, you have to. It's all performance based, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I think something like that would be amazing, right? Like if you had an England, if let's say the national Blitz finals or whatever it was called, they had multiple
Mm.
like district finals that then led to the overall final. Like, yeah, if that was the way to decide the England team, that would be sick. Like, then the players have something to look forward to, something to train towards, and it will really pick the players who have really earned it. Like they've
Mm.
put in the effort to make those scores. Yeah, I think that would be a better system for sure.
Definitely. So I suppose, wow, could you tell me a bit about your Scorpio trip as well? I know you've already told
Oh
me, but
yeah,
I'd love to hear about that again because that's I think that's a good example of you. Well, you
yeah,
tell me
right.
about it. But it sounds
Yeah,
like you
no,
gave them a really great opportunity there.
right. So yeah, for some context, basically, I organized a junior trip to Skopje, the capital city of Macedonia, and I called the team the London Junior Team.
Hmm.
So not using England but London as a central point. Um, and yeah, the idea of the team was basically I kind of saw that a lot of promising juniors aren't getting selected into this
Mm.
England team, and I wanted to give them an opportunity to get some international experience. So yeah, I have some connections in Macedonia in chess who I've met through international tournaments. That's kind of how it goes as a chess player competitively.
Yeah.
Like you play in international tournaments, you meet new players every time, and then you next time you meet them again, they've got different friends, and you meet their friends. So I basically met a guy called Nikola from Macedonia through some Belgians in a tournament in Bulgaria. So that's
Nice.
how you make these connections. So I know him quite well, and I've been to Skopje before, and I kind of know the club, so I knew like
Okay.
the place is a venue. It's legit. And yeah, we went for a tournament, and we were training chess in between rounds, and just playing a lot of blitz as well, just like having fun, just like and that's actually I can't remember which grandmaster said this. I should remember the name, but there's a very strong player who said that the best way he improved at chess, like the most breakthroughs he had as a player, were always from playing in tournaments or training camps where he will pick up something small from someone else. So someone else has, let's say, learned some principle in a rook endgame, and maybe you have messed up something in a rook endgame, and your friend is just like, oh, I mean, why did you do this? You just do this, and this is like the principle, and this makes complete sense. And these
Right.
emotional memories really improved him as a player and got him to where he was. So I think these kind of like travel experiences where, a group of, promising, enthusiastic juniors can get together and train chess, there's just so much area for improvement because they're all bouncing off ideas from each other, and they also get a fresh perspective as well because some of these students are getting coached by me, and I think it's very useful for my students to have a fresh perspective from a different coach occasionally to learn see something in a slightly different way and understand that chess is a much more complicated game, and it's not just exactly how I see it. And maybe something that I say might not click, but something that someone else says might click. So, yeah, I think these experiences are really important to get to the next level. And actually, I think that's a big factor as well why I am in chess right now. Because I think if my chess as a junior was limited to just chess within the UK, it wouldn't have been as exciting as compared to when I was actually representing England as a junior and playing in these international tournaments, because I honestly had so much fun playing in these tournaments with the squad, playing against different countries. Like, I don't know, for me, it was the first time I was able to leave the country on my own without parents, stay in a hotel room with two friends. It's just like the most
Yeah.
amazing experience. So, yeah, I think like this kind of opportunity for juniors, not just to develop their chess, but to develop as human beings. I think it's just great.
Definitely. Yeah. It must be. I don't know. Yeah, we always talk about how travel exposes you to new things. So applying that to
Right.
chess is really interesting. The idea that you get exposed to these new ideas, right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome. I suppose my next question then would be, so okay, you talk about this idea of sort of like social learning and seeing different perspectives are really important for improving.
Yeah.
And I guess through your own experience as a coach, is there anything you see in your strongest students that you think is necessary for a successful junior player? So that might be socially or psychologically, that has some sort of impact on their play.
That's a tough one. I think,
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought I'd throw it out there.
I think it depends on the student. Like some students, let's say, would respond really well to pressure. Like for
Right.
instance, parental pressure. Like I've got some students who have a lot of pressure on from their parents to perform, and this leads to some players quitting, but it also leads to some players striving and working harder at the game. So that's one where it's like really 50-50
Yeah.
on the junior. Um, I feel like the juniors who are really making the most progress are the ones who are most open-minded, and not just open-minded like at the board, but also off the board as well. Like if they really are taking in every opinion, uh, open to fixing every mistake that they make, these are the kids who are like just rapidly improving because yeah, it just allows for much more growth, and I mean I really respect it in some of my students because there have been times where I've even shocked myself where a student has been more mature about a situation than I would have been,
Wow.
and like even as an adult, not even just comparing myself as a kid to when they were a kid, but as an adult, they are actually like showing me up with like how they're like viewing the game or like viewing something about the game, like if they, I don't know, had some bad tournament result or something. So yeah, like I think yeah, these traits really help, like when you're trying to get stronger. But yeah, I think the great thing about chess is that there are just so many ways to get good, in the sense that you definitely don't have to follow just a single path. And I think that's another test of being a good coach, is whether you can find the right path for that student, because each student is going to find that they develop through different means. Like you can't just have like one size fits all, and that's why like I'm a bit not skeptical. That's too harsh, but like there are these kind of like chess groups that swear by a certain standard of, you know, you pass this level, then you go to the next level. What's that Dutch system that does that? I've forgotten the name.
Steps method.
Steps method, yeah. So I mean, okay, probably for like the fundamentals, it's really good, and I don't know how advanced steps method gets, but I think if you are, let's say, a one-to-one coach and you are just following the steps method chapter by chapter, I think this is a wasted opportunity. Like maybe as an organization for group lessons, this is the best you can do. But when you're a one-to-one coach, I think it's much more important to understand how the junior develops, enforce the best habits in them, and yeah, like make the most of the fact that, you know, you have this chance to develop the student in the way that they can develop the best, as opposed to just sticking rigorously to some method.
Definitely. I found I discovered it a couple of months ago, and I found it very useful as a sort of framework. So the idea that it does provide you with a really nice structured curriculum, and it can take you from learning how the pieces move up to sort of like 2000, 2100 strength. But you're right, it's really important that you know how to. That's an important skill as a coach, to be able to adapt it to the student. It's always funny. I don't know if you've ever had this where maybe a student is sort of like plateauing a bit, and you're sort of wondering, oh, is this working? But I've had it recently where you just try something a little bit differently, and then they just like
right. Yeah, that's the crazy thing with kids as well. Like motivation can just come and go like nothing. Like one day they'll be thinking chess is the best thing ever and waking up at 5 a.m. to watch Gotham Chess, and the next day they'll be like, you know, playing Beyblades with their friends and like obsessed with Beyblades, and they don't give a shit about chess. So yeah, like I think it comes and goes, and just finding ways to keep them invested. I think that's half of the challenge of being a coach, I think.
Definitely. And is there any sort of well, obviously it depends on the student, but are there any sort of like qualities or methods you use to try and instill these like good playing habits, these good qualities in your players?
I don't think I've got any like specific methods. I think it's more like just understanding them as a person and knowing what works for them, and then being considerate to how they learn. And I mean, there will be times when like I am making sure that I'm not too lenient with how they learn. Like, you know, at some point they are going to have to put in hard work and have moments of discomfort to make progress, because it's not just all smooth sailing. And I'm pretty strict on that. But yeah, I don't think I've got any like particular methods for that. But I think that's the method in itself. Like you're just being flexible and malleable with it. And I think that's why I've clashed a lot with a very famous chess coach, Ramesh, who taught Pragananda. Yes. Like I had some like heated Twitter debates and whatnot with this guy. And the thing is, I think we just are very fundamentally different as chess coaches, because I mean, he believes that his way is the best way, and his evidence for this is Pragananda, who is one of the most like strongest juniors in the world. So, you know, he's got some he's got his claim to fame there, but I think like he's extremely rigid with how he teaches. And he even tells his students to be more like Prag. And I think like it's just such a toxic way of, I don't know, helping someone improve, because you may have someone who could be just as talented as Prag, and maybe even have just as much potential to be as strong as Prag, but maybe he doesn't learn in the way that Prag learns. But, you know, because Prag, you know, managed to make it, therefore everyone has to follow the same path, and that's just completely unrealistic because every human is so different from each other. Well, okay, there are similarities, but not everyone is Prague, so not everyone is going to learn like Prague to get to where Prague is. Like, it's just common sense to me. But no, I mean, I don't think Ramesh views it like that and just thinks everyone should just put in the discipline. And if you're not getting the results, you need to work harder. And, if you're losing games, then you need to concentrate more. Like, I don't know, they're just not helpful. It's just not helpful at all to me. So yeah, I think just be a bit more flexible, try not to have as much of an ego when you're coaching these kids. And I think that will help their development as a player.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see those different schools of thought though, right? Because as you say, there are so many different pathways to success. And obviously, well, you can have wildly different approaches to coaching and have, similarly great results in terms of actual performance. But the idea that, there is one correct way of doing things seems quite inconsistent with, chess, right? Or,
Right.
Our understanding of chess. I see the parallel there.
Yeah. Like, if you just think about, let's say, Hans Niemann compared to Prague, like their styles and their ability as a player, like, they have similar ratings, but I promise you, like, if Ramesh had Hans Niemann as a student, Hans Niemann would never make it above like 1600. So, you got to be flexible with these things, and you got to appreciate talent for what it is and not just force a certain curriculum down a kid's throat. Like, that's just not going to work. Yeah.
Definitely.
By the way, Eric, I probably have time for like one or two more questions, just because I actually have a chess lesson to teach at 2:30. So
that is okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I'm very much getting towards the end of my list. I'm just checking if there's anything else. I feel like we've touched on the main basis. I hope you've got to say most of what you were thinking. Is there any other things that come to mind on this on these sorts of topics?
Don't think so, really. I mean, I think, been some good questions, and we covered a lot of ground of like what it makes to be a good coach, what life is like to be an England junior in chess, and what benefits chess can bring to juniors and even the coaching profession. So yeah, I think we covered a lot of it, which is good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's been really great to hear your perspective. To hear your views on things is really interesting. And I think one new takeaway I've had from the discussion is really the amazing impacts of the social networks you've described. That was actually quite striking to me, because one key focus of my research is the idea of entrepreneurial ecosystems, which is all a little bit fuzzy, where entrepreneurialism is seen as really, really important to sort of economic growth or succeeding at a national scale. And at the minute, it's sort of in academia and science and development, governments are really scratching their heads, figuring out, why don't we have a Silicon Valley? Why, we've thrown all this investment into projects like that. And entrepreneurial ecosystems as a sort of academic pursuit has this really interesting idea of looking at the social connections and how the importance of social networks in fostering entrepreneurial talent and investment and stuff. And I can sort of see some of these parallels with the idea of sort of like chess ecosystems. That's what I wanted to hear, about your experiences through the pipeline of junior chess, and then how, as a chess player, and how your juniors can grow through in social ways. It was really interesting, that point you made as well about the social learning, about how when you travel, you're able to learn through others and just be exposed to these ideas, and you've created, so you sort of create that social network that way. I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, just to give another example, just because it's all happened quite recently, but will this maybe I need to think carefully whether to put this in a video. But no, I mean, basically that I played in a tournament a few years ago where I met a player who had gone to Turkey and had lost 200 rating points FIDE,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he was just grinding tournaments where he was playing these super underrated juniors. And, when I saw this, I was thinking, like, what on earth is he doing? Like, is he just going for experience? And we spoke about it after the game, and he said, like, him as a 2021 player was getting paid to play in these events, which I thought was pretty cool, actually. Like, in a way, sure, you kind of get you get killed for your FIDE points, but you gain a lot of experience because you're playing these talented players who are getting coached by these strong IMs and GMs. So, your repertoires are getting really tested, and you're getting paid at the same time, and, like, free hospitality. So, like, yeah, that sounded cool. And I actually got in touch with the person organizing these tournaments, because I was thinking maybe that's something like I would actually be interested in. Just, why not make some money on a chess holiday, have a free trip, free hotel, and also improve my chess. But the organizer said that he's not running those tournaments anymore right now. But basically, his idea, the reason why he was doing this tournament, not only to, you could say, perhaps artificially increasing the FIDE ratings of the students, but simply getting the students exposure to stronger players. And this was a very good way to bring the players in, because there would be no other reason why these players would come to this small town to play. So because he found out that, I am a chess coach as well, he was saying that, oh, maybe we can, like, organize a trip together. Like, maybe I can organize a team to come to his place. We can stay at the hotel. We can arrange for lectures, simuls, maybe have some kind of tournament event there as well. And yeah, make a real, like, chess trip of it. So I think there's very decent chance that I might actually go ahead with this. And the thing is, like, yeah, it's just like with chess, it's just so easy to, like, expand and get more and more connections. Like, for instance, I've started coaching a kid whose dad is actually a chess teacher, but not at the same level as me, but he's kind of teaching in schools. Like, he's kind of like 1700 and teaching, like, real beginners. But he said, like, he would love to come on one of these trips, and, he's got, like, he knows how to do first aid. He's got, like, enhanced DBS, all of that, he's working in schools. So, this would be a great person to have on a trip like this to help ensure things run smoothly. This organization who I spoke to seemed to have a great establishment with lots of strong coaches and strong juniors. And now I have this London junior team that is slowly growing and has a lot of promising, talented juniors who are wanting to play and experience these experiences. And yeah, we can make a trip. And that's the very nice thing that, like, all of these people came from completely different contexts. And if you are a person who has the social skills to, just talk to people and, like, make these connections, it's very, very easy to bring these people together into something that can work very nice. So basically, yeah, I think there's a very good chance that this trip will go ahead at some point in the next year. And I think this will be, a trip to remember for all of the juniors who play, not only chess-wise, but life-wise. And yeah, I think this is what it's all about. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And yeah, it just shows how, like, just a little bit of entrepreneurship and a little bit of social skills can just go a really long way in, creating, like, an ecosystem that works for you and that is sustainable and, yeah, gives me job stability. And yeah, I think it works.
Yeah, that is really awesome. And I suppose now we are sort of trying to make a push in England to give players more exposure, because we sort of have some parallels with sort of the Indian ecosystem, right? Where we're not attracting enough international players. We don't have many international events and opportunities. So it's like why you see these poor, like, 1100s in India playing at GM level, because just none of these tournaments pay enough or can, like, bring in the international talent. So you're not bringing the international talent to England. You're taking the talent to them.
Right. But ultimately, the kids get the experience and the growth. So that's what I'm after.
Exactly. That's awesome. Great. I think if you're happy, we can wrap up there. That was a really productive conversation, I feel. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. And thanks, Eric, for the questions. Amazing.
Awesome.